Welcome to today's episode, a real Christmas special. And today we are joined by Sean, a leader whose journey in the iGaming began in customer support and it evolved into leading payment solutions. With over a decade of experience, Sean has worn many hats, from managing risk and fraud to enhancing customer experience. We will delve into his early days at a fast-paced startup, where the chaos of juggling multiple roles at the same time shaped his leadership philosophy. Sean shares how his buffet-style approach to learning led him to discover his passion for payments. Whether you're intrigued by the art of leadership, curious about how AI is revolutionizing payments, or looking for strategies in a fast-paced and ever-changing industry, this episode has something valuable for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this insightful conversation with Sean. And happy festive season. You've had quite the journey starting in customer support and working your way up to leading payment solutions. What inspired you to pursue this field, and how did those early roles shape your approach to leadership?
Yes, for sure. So just to give some context here, I've started off in the online gaming industry like just over a decade ago now, and I started off at a startup company. And basically, given that it was a startup company, I believe it was around 15 of us at the time when I was working at Max Entertainment. You basically need to wear different hats because you need to in order to make it work. So this gives a very unique opportunity for anyone working within a startup to really learn the ropes from every individual department that the company has, obviously, because you're helping one minute you're helping out with anything risk and fraud, for example. Next, you're helping out on customer support. Then there's something with regards to affiliates that you may need to dive into as well. So it gives a very unique opportunity for you to get first-hand experience doing different things. So working at a startup, especially the beginning stages of your career, is something that I would highly recommend because it gives you this. It's very busy and at surface level it looks chaotic, but it will most definitely have a very net positive impact on your career for sure. I mean, I would say it's been quite pivotal for my own career to be fair. And yes, obviously given that you have your own experience, or let's say opportunity to the analogy I use actually is it's like you're at a buffet basically, and you get to taste the different plates before deciding on your favorite one, which is exactly what I've done. And basically at the end of my buffet, let's say, I got to payments product, and I fell in love with payments product. And based on my own aspirations in terms of what my like aspired career trajectory is, payments was the one that really struck gold for me. And basically I decided to take that on forward, and here we are now, around 11 years later.
Almost at more than a decade.
Yeah, of course.
Although dinner is maybe not the best analogy, because it's more like a parkour you need to do, and eventually you find which one fits you best.
That's very true. Very true.
But it's really fun at the end of the day.
Yes, I agree.
And you've led teams from various cultures and professional backgrounds. What's your secret to fostering collaboration and maintaining team performance, especially in the hybrid or remote environments, which we also have
Yes,
at Kaizen?
exactly. So obviously, if let's start off with the team itself. Something that I love doing with every team that I've led in the past, even here at PressEnter, it's getting to know your team. And this is what I don't mean at a friendship level in a way. It's very important that you understand what each individual member within your team needs in order to be, let's say, in order to perform to the best of their abilities. You can't just take a one size fits all kind of approach and basically assume that is the same for all of your team members, irrelevant of its size. You have to tailor your approach depending on the individual. And the way I tackle this is by having a very direct conversation with each team member, basically, that especially those that I'm directly managing. So I understand what is it that you need from your managers, which obviously in this case it would be me. So what do you need from my side in order to be effective? Are you fine? Like a good example that I can give you is certain individuals would prefer if they have more constant one-to-ones, for example, to make sure that and put their mind at ease that they're on the right track and they're doing. Other individuals would see this as a bit more daunting and would rather have, like, for example, for them it would be no news is basically good news. And if there's something that comes up, they know that you'll be speaking to them anyway. So obviously, again, you need to tailor your approach to each individual and understand what it is that they need in order to be effective, and also to understand what their career trajectory is looking like. You can't assume that everyone aspires to be X, Y, or Z, and you can't assume that you basically have to tailor your approach to be more of a mentor than simply just their manager, so to speak.
That's the leadership approach you have taken on. But usually over communication is better than no news is good news, right?
I would agree, yes, as in over communication, like, because then you need to understand what constitutes over communication. I would definitely not be just leaving a dead space, let's say, for nuances to kind of develop. That is not the right approach for sure. What I mean is obviously for the ones that do require, so this is what I meant by for the ones that do require more consistent communication and checking in. For these individuals, what I found throughout my experience is that it's very important to praise the positive side of whatever project they're working on, whatever task they're looking into, and they're doing on a day-to-day basis. It's not essential to stroke their ego, if you will, but it's more just a recognition that I see you, I see the work that you're doing, and the work you're doing is correct. It's on par with the expectation, it's with my expectation, on par with the company's expectation, and so on and so forth. So this gives a sense of relief, a sense of ease, and you relieve any chance of anxiety, so to speak, for this particular individual. Where others, for example, that not having this consistent level of yes, this is good, this is right, this is wrong, this is actually if there's something wrong, obviously this needs to communicate it straight
Of
away.
course,
But
yeah.
you get what I mean. It's that kind of tailing, and this is one of many examples, obviously, of how you can tailor your approach to each individual, and how constructive, let's say, criticism in general as a whole, obviously constructive criticism is given to each individual, and how direct you have to be or need to be with each individual, versus certain individuals would require let's say a softer touch, but you still have to retain that direct approach, because you need to remain clear on what you're communicating and what the objective is. So this, you can't beat around the bush too much, but obviously you need to be careful with the selection of words that you're using to communicate what needs to be done, basically.
Yeah, I recently learned about something called the sandwich approach. So that's,
Yes, yes,
yeah, you've heard of this? So
yes, yes,
that's
yes, yes. They're
so
basically
for
laying, yeah, exactly, positivity with what needs to be, let's say, worked on. So yeah,
exactly.
the different layers, exactly.
Yeah, it works really well. I've noticed that it works really well actually. And how do you ensure seamless collaboration across these critical functions
I'm sorry.
between payment? Like payments often sit at the intersection of compliance, legal, finance, and
Yeah.
other departments. How do you ensure the seamless collaboration across these critical functions?
Right. So I've worked with a number of a few companies now. The first thing that I do, literally in the first week or maybe 2 weeks of the start of my journey there, is literally meet the stakeholders within each department to understand their role and function. Because again, you can't assume that because company X's compliance team does ABC, you can't automatically assume that at company Y the same applies. So the first thing I do is meet every individual, every stakeholder within each department to understand what their overall function is, what the collaboration has been like in the past, what in their opinion is working well, and what needs to be improved on and why. This basically gives you the ability to, first of all, understand and speed ramp your entire onboarding process just by getting your hands dirty in a way to understand the company at a more intimate level, so to speak. And second, you also understand what the current policies are, and you understand how the wheel works before trying to reinvent it. Because the last thing you want to create is alienation by means of starting to change things around without having done the legwork first to understand why the wheel functions the way it does at the moment. You'll then obviously have your own take on how the wheel should perform and how it should turn and so on and so forth. And that's where you start adding in your own personal attributes to the wheel. But you first need to understand what's what, and making by doing so, obviously, you learn the different policies that you have in place, the procedures that each department has, and this ensures that you aren't creating a gap in between what they're used to and what you're used to, and you're kind of meeting in the middle. Obviously, you'll understand what is important to them, what isn't as important, so you have the right conversations. Having the right conversations with each stakeholder means that you're being efficient with time, you're being efficient with your own time and with their time, so they'll appreciate this as well from your side. Yeah, that is my approach, at least.
Yeah, you don't want to reinvent the wheel again and again and again. And what's your approach to evaluating and improving the performance of payment providers, and how do you decide which new solution to integrate?
Right. So those are two separate branches, so to speak. So you have on one
Yeah.
side you have the ensuring the performance of each PSP, so, and evaluating its own performance compared
Hmm.
to the competitors. And
Hmm.
then the second part of the question was finding and integrating new solutions, you said?
Yes.
Right. So on the first, let's start with defining actually defining part. So if, for you to find a particular solution, that you obviously need to understand exactly what you're looking for. So what does this mean? It means looking at the integration type that you need. Are you using a payment orchestration platform? Are you using
Hmm.
are you opting in for a direct integration? So you have to take these into consideration, because it will have a massive impact on your cost. It will have a massive impact on the amount of time that you need to take that particular solution live. Obviously, direct integrations will always take longer than using a payment orchestration platform, if obviously the solution is already integrated within that platform. But on the most part, they would be, especially with the higher performing, or let's say, or higher known payment platforms. So you have to take a lot of this, and not just to the direct cost, so that the commercial side of the agreement, this how does this compare commercially to the other one. You have to factor in a lot of different variables. You also need to understand a very important thing, which is obviously the approval ratios. You need to dive deep into, again, understanding what you're looking for. So, and you have to dissect it down, because you can't just say, for example, I'm looking for a car solution. That's a very broad statement. You need to tailor it in a way that fits your own specific need, which is, I'm looking for a payment solution that is performing well for licensed operators in UK, for example,
Hmm.
or Germany. That is a lot more. It's actually, as I'm talking, I'm actually reminded by how to efficiently use ChatGPT, basically, and any open AI. If you just type in question answer format, it's only going to give you a very base level response. Whereas
Hmm.
if you implement and instruct it to really give you the answers that you need by giving it more context, the better the better the output. And the same thing applies here to knowing and finding what it is that you're looking for. Otherwise, it's just a crapshoot, really. On the other side of the spectrum, then you have the evaluating the performance of each solution. Once again, you have to dive deep into, let's take cars, because it's quite easy to explain in terms of how to evaluate the solution. So
Uh-huh.
again, you're looking at not just a surface level, for example, approval ratio, but you're diving deep into the individual markets. You're looking at the individual bins, how each bin is performing under provider X compared to provider Y. In terms of, when you've just integrated a new solution, you don't just open up the valve to 100% and say, let's see what's going to happen, because this, at the end of the day, especially when it comes to solutions which are tailored for first time depositors, if this first time depositor that has just recently registered at the casino has a bad experience just because they're using untested, or rather than untested, let's say untested, but it's not really untested from a QA or technological standpoint, but untested in real time player deposits at your company, or on your brands. If they have, because it hasn't been optimized to your casino or optimized to the target market that you're looking into, you may eventually lose this player, basically, because let's say they're quite adamant on using cards as their main solution, and basically they have a bad experience with the user flow, or whatever it may be. This may lead you to losing that particular relationship. So this is why it's very important for you to trickle volumes into the newly integrated solutions.
Mhm.
See exactly what you intend on extracting from this payment solution, and making very strategic decisions in terms of how it's integrated, how it's implemented, and how it's enabled across your user base, basically, or your player base.
Yeah, define which metrics you want to track, test, and see what the outcome is.
Exactly,
And it's
exactly.
very interesting that you say that you can do it with ChatGPT, because it also has a good bridge to the next question, but also because in the end it might all come down to prompt engineering eventually in a few years. But I mean, we will see. But AI and automations are rapidly transforming the industry. So how do you see these technologies reshaping payments, and particularly in fraud detection or personalization?
Yes, AI is most definitely going to play a massive, massive part when it comes to the online payment space, be
Mhm.
it online gaming or pretty much every other space imaginable where online payments is required, which is pretty much everywhere nowadays. At this point in time, I don't feel like we're leveraging as a let's say let's just stick to the online gaming industry at least, because obviously
Mhm.
that's where my experience lies.
Mhm.
We're not currently utilizing ChatGPT or AI.
Yeah.
We're not utilizing AI to the to its maximum capability, or we're not even close in reality. There are certain solutions which are opting into investing their resources to optimize their workflows and so on and so forth, to have more AI integration within the solution, which I would highly encourage at this stage, because this means that at a later stage where AI is basically the norm and the standard, the last thing you want especially as a B2B business, is to be behind the curve, basically. You really need to understand that this is the trajectory that the online payment space is moving towards,
Mhm.
and you have to put your chips in the right order and basically make the right investments. AI is one of those investments to make, obviously. As that stands today, I've seen certain implementations of how AI is being used in the payment space. It needs a lot of optimization. I haven't seen a solution that literally floored me or wowed me to the point of saying this is revolutionary, let's say. But this will most definitely be happening in the future for sure. No doubt about it.
And what is one of the innovations you are most excited about, or what is one of the AI integrations you are most excited about?
So that is a good question. In terms of what I'm really excited to seeing is, for example, to be able to in real time, and this is something that I've seen with certain solutions, but it's still, again, it still needs a lot of optimization in
Mhm.
terms of routing different traffic in real time. So as opposed to having manual, you have to do this manually through your team and by tracking it at different times. This is done by having an AI functionality, which again I've seen, but I haven't seen it work to the extent that let's say it should be working at. And this will allow you to be able to make rerouting tasks and processes much faster, which means that the chances of you converting those players is significantly higher. And obviously, at the end of the day, that is exactly what you want, is to convert especially newly registered players into the depositing players. That's basically the entire game plan here, I would say. So it's you need to make sure that you have everything in your arsenal, and you're implementing everything in your arsenal in order to make this happen.
Exciting times ahead, at least.
For
Um,
sure.
on a different note, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it to solve or change one thing, what would that one thing be,
Mm.
and why?
Right. Right. So the answer comes to mind would actually create quite a bit of a monopoly. So it does come with cons as well, I guess. But what, like
It's
if
a
I had
magic wand,
to,
so.
so if I had a magic wand, I would say that I would create a solution that is well understood and popular within the masses. So basically, because something that I've learned very early on in my payments career is that each individual market have their own preferences in terms of different payment solutions. So, for example, if you had to look at the UK, for example, a few years ago, it was if you had to take into account a few years ago, 95% of the transactions would go through cards. Nowadays, they're more open to open banking. Open banking is one of those solutions that is really one to look out for. In fact, I'm seeing a lot more competition enter the space of open banking, and for good reason, because I do believe that it's I can't say it's the new big thing because it's been around for a while, but it's now being adopted by a lot more markets that were more card heavy in the past, and this will hopefully reshape the payment space and will allow us to convert more players and so forth, and bring the user journey into more of a standard, let's say, into a standard flow, which means rather than creating brand awareness, it's creating a solution awareness. So in essence, the players by automation familiar with the process, familiar with the flow that they're looking at, and this immediately creates a sense of ease for the player. So the depositing process, they're familiar with it, they know exactly what to do, what to expect, and if something goes awry with the process, they know exactly why, and this cuts down on a lot of resource that is required in terms of customer support, for example, a lot of issues and grievances with the user flow. So basically, yes, this is the once I wave this proverbial magic wand, I would create solution awareness amongst the players into a particular solution that is basically the flow is like an outstanding perfect flow.
It's essentially just creating a habit for all the players.
Exactly, exactly.
A same habit for all of them at the same time.
Exactly, in a way. So it's they're very familiar with exactly what's going on and so on and so forth. So knowing that there is a sense of, let's say, anxiety of starting something new that comes with starting anything new in life, in reality, starting off a new journey with a new casino can be a bit of an anxious thing for a player. So having those payment solutions that they're already aware of, they're familiar with, they know exactly how to use, that reduces that level of anxiety, and that will obviously boost the player conversion.
Something to work on. I want to thank you for your time. That was the final question. So
Oh, very good. Thank you so much for
um,
having me on, Maurice.
thank you.